And good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday morning. Welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I'm the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. And boy, I appreciate you being with me. And by the way, I want to say again how much I appreciate all of the suggestions that have been made for our next study. It's not too far off. I must say that at this particular point, subject to change without notice, I'm seriously thinking about doing a study of the feast days of Israel. And I suppose the reason I'm leaning to that is, as I've shared with you before, this is a subject that is, quote, relatively new to me. It only goes back in my studies, for approximately 15 to 17 years. And that may sound like a long time. And believe you me, I have put in a lot of study. But it is a subject that is it is so rich, it is so full. Now, here's my concern. My concern is I'm not sure that I feel like I can do it 100% full justice, even at this point of time in my studies. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't know anything about it. I've mentioned to you that I'm currently writing a book entitled The Last Day, The Last Hour, The Last Trumpet Resurrection. And this book is focused on demonstrating the correlation between Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and particularly Sukkot, the Feast of Harvest, and the end time, last day, last hour, resurrection. And specifically, the resurrection as the final fulfillment of Sukkot. And as the fulfillment of Sukkot, i.e. the Feast of Harvest, the Feast of Ingathering, the harvest, the last day, the last hour harvest, is therefore the ultimate fulfillment of Israel's eschatological feast days, the ultimate consummation of her covenant history. And without the coming of the Lord for Yom Kippur, without Rosh Hashanah, the judgment, and without Sukkot being fulfilled, that demands that Israel remains God's covenant people, and that Torah, all of it, every jot and every tittle of it, remains valid. So it is an incredibly important topic. And like I said, my thinking, AT&T, I very often say when people say, well, what do you believe about this? What do you believe about that, Don? And if it's something that I haven't really made up my mind about, I say, well, my AT&T position is this. And AT&T stands for at this time. So my AT&T view for this morning is that our next topic is going to be the feast days of Israel. Now, let me say this. Some of you out there, all right? Some of you out there have written to me privately and contributed some wonderful thoughts on the feast days. You have contributed to me some wonderful resources for me to study on the feast days. And some of you have challenged me challenged for me to look, to rethink, and examine. There's a fellow named Texas Outlaw has challenged my views. Well, I've asked him go ahead and send me some material. I haven't seen it, and I'm not condemning that. I'm just simply saying I haven't seen it. Maybe I just didn't get it. But he's offered some really challenging information that I'm more than happy to and more than willing to look at. I just need to see it outlined, in a logical, scriptural, cohesive way. So, hey, Texas Outlaw, if you're out there watching, send me your material. So, I have that amount of trepidation that even after having studied the feast days for 15 to 17 years And even though I am currently involved every single day at the current time in research to complete this book on the last day, the last hour, the last trumpet resurrection, I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that I don't understand the feast days to a certain extent, certainly greater than I ever have in my entire life. And yet, it's such a vast subject, such a deep, rich subject. So, that's my thinking. That's my AT&T idea. And let me reiterate, if you have some really good resource material, okay, for me to study, go to my website, send me an email with good links, good bibliographic references, PDFs, because I'm eager to learn. I really honestly am. I'm eager to learn. What I've seen and what I know at this time is, as I have said in the past, some of the richest, most wonderful studies that I have ever been engaged in the entirety of my life. So, get those cards and letters coming, as the saying goes. Now then, in Joel chapter 3, and I've been sharing with you over the last several weeks how Joel 2 and 3 is the background source for Matthew 25, 31 and following. Because the Lord said, in those days and at that time, I will gather all nations to judgment. I will enter into judgment with them there. That is the valley of Jehoshaphat, Joel 3, verse 14. And now watch this. I'm going to begin reading with verse 12. Let the nations be awakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there I will sit to judge all the surrounding nations. Now remember, beginning with verse 9 and following, we have a call for the nations to be called to war in the last days. It is a call to war both against Jerusalem, but against the surrounding nations, all at the same time. And this war, as we will see, is not only against the nations, but it's a two-edged sword in destruction of Jerusalem, as we have already observed, as we've already proven, but in vindication of the martyrs of God, about which we will have more to say. But notice this. Let the nations be awakened, come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there I will sit to judge all the surrounding nations. Put in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, go down, for the winepress is full, the vats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Now, boy, oh boy, this is rich stuff. Tiny bit of backstory, right? In Matthew chapter 24, we are told that in the Olivet Discourse, that we have two subjects. The fall of Jerusalem in verses 4 to 34, and verse 35 or 36, we have a change of subject introduced by, but of that day and hour knows no man. And we conflate Matthew 24, 36 with Mark chapter 13, in which Jesus said, but of that day and hour knows no man, no, not the angels, no, not the Son, but the Father only. By the way, for all of those who like to say, oh, God can't tell time. God doesn't think in time like we do. Well, you know what? God tells time according to the day and the hour. So don't tell me God can't tell time. And speaking of which, go to my website, donkpreston.com, bibleprophecy.com, or eschatology.org, which, by the way, is being completely revamped by Alan Morton. Take a look at it, see what you think. Anyway, order my book, Who is This Babylon? And when you order the book, send me a note that says you saw the offer on YouTube or Facebook, and I will send you free of charge a copy of my book, Can God Tell Time? Now look, folks, if God can tell the day or the hour, then don't tell me God can't tell time and that God doesn't communicate in time truthfully. Because Jesus said his Father does. So with that in mind, with that segue in mind, what do we find in Revelation chapter 14? In Revelation chapter 14, 6 and following, John said, I saw another angel flying through the heaven, having the everlasting gospel to proclaim to every to preach to all of those who dwell on the earth, to every nation, tribe, tongue, and people, saying with a loud voice, fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment has come. Now wait a minute. How did the angel know that the hour, Greek word hora, how did the angel know the hour of his judgment has come? By the way, the has come is in the perfect tense, meaning it once was not near, but now it has drawn near, and it's time. Well, the angel knew that because Revelation chapter 1, verse 1 says, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God, that's the Father, gave to him to show to his servants the things which must shortly come to pass. So the Father was informing the Son to send to the churches through John the message. The hour for the judgment of Babylon has come. The hour. This is not some vague, generic, unknown. This is the Father saying the hour of the judgment of Babylon has come. And you can't say, well, you know, one day is with the Lord 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as a day. Well, don't you think it's kind of funny? People say they only quote one day is with the Lord 1,000 years, and they leave it at that. But it doesn't stop there. And 1,000 years is as a day. Point being, God can tell time. And the God of heaven, who knew the day and the hour, communicated to the churches through the angel, the hour of his judgment has come. Now watch this. Revelation 14, 15. I'll start with let's start with verse 14. I looked and behold a white cloud, and on the cloud sat one like the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, in his hand a sharp sickle. And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice, to him who sat on the cloud, thrust in your sickle and reap. Now watch this. For the time has come for you to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. What did Joel say? In the last days, and at that time, judgment will be near. Here is John, who is writing in the last days, saw in his vision the God of heaven saying, the time for the harvest has come. And you know, that word time is from hora. So the angel sent by the Father said, the hour for the judgment has come. And now the other angels coming out of the temple where the Father was, and they're sent by the Father, and they're saying, the hour of the harvest has come. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. If you're going to make the book of Revelation about the fall of Rome, as many amillennialists and postmillennialists do, the fall of Rome was 400 years away. I'm sorry, but saying the hour of the judgment, the hour of the harvest has come, doesn't match 400 years. And if you're going to say that the book of Revelation is about the judgment of the Roman Catholic Church at the end of time, I'm sorry, 2,000 years doesn't match. The hour of the harvest has come. And if you're going to say that literal Babylon in literal Iraq is the Babylon of Revelation, I'm sorry, the hour of the harvest has come doesn't match 2,000 years, or I should say 2,000 years doesn't match, the hour of the harvest has come. Especially in light of the fact that our Lord said, John chapter 4, verse 35, do not say within yourselves, there are 4 months and then the harvest. For I say to you, lift up your eyes, for the fields are already ripe unto the harvest. Jesus said the time of the harvest had arrived 2,000 years ago. And we got more to say on this tomorrow. So I'll see you on the flip side.